She just wanted to snap a selfie, just a few steps closer to the fence. Just one picture. But in those next few seconds, everything changed. It was a calm afternoon at Wildlife World Zoo in Arizona, where families were enjoying the animals under the bright sun. Then, suddenly, the screaming began. Witnesses reported seeing her lean over the barrier to get a better shot with the jaguar behind her, but in an instant, the big cat lunged. There was blood, panic, and a phone dropped near the edge of the enclosure. People shouted for help as staff rushed toward the cage, but by the time they arrived, Illa James was on the ground, wounded and barely conscious. It was March 10, 2018, a warm Saturday afternoon at Wildlife World Zoo and Aquarium in Litchfield Park, Arizona, just west of Phoenix. Families strolled between enclosures, snapping photos of giraffes, watching otters play, and lining up for a glimpse of the zoo's most powerful predators, the big cats. This wasn't just any roadside zoo. With over 600 exotic animals spread across 95 acres, Wildlife World had earned a reputation for offering something few other places dared to: proximity glass walls, open-air habitats, and viewing zones that made you feel part of the wild. That's exactly what attracted 30-year-old Illa James, a Phoenix resident visiting with her family that day. Illa adored animals, loved adventure, and more than anything, she cherished capturing it all for her social media followers. Just minutes before everything went wrong, she had posted cheerful selfies beside flamingos. But that wasn't enough. Not yet. As her group approached the jaguar exhibit, Illa spotted an opportunity. She couldn't help but be drawn to the idea of turning an ordinary afternoon into something thrilling. There was a low concrete barrier, a jaguar pacing behind chain-link fencing, and a shot that no one else had dared to take. As she stepped closer, one foot over the barrier and one arm outstretched with her phone, a silent hunter transformed into a blur of motion. This is the story of what truly unfolded in those final moments: a single decision involving a powerful predator and the unexpected consequences that followed. Layla James wasn't a stranger to Wildlife World Zoo. In fact, this was her third visit. But on that particular Saturday in March 2018, she had something more specific in mind than just admiring the animals. Illa, a 30-year-old office manager from downtown Phoenix, had cultivated a growing online following thanks to her bold, adventurous spirit and carefully curated social media posts. To her hundreds of Instagram followers, Illa was fun, fearless, and always on the hunt for the next eye-catching moment. Her feed was a vibrant collection of sunsets from desert hikes, rooftop cocktails, and selfies with everything from street murals to the venomous snakes she once held at a wildlife expo. Her captions always echoed the same sentiment: just one shot, just one life. That afternoon, her Instagram stories captured it all. Her holding a soda cup by the petting zoo, giggling at the flamingos, and posing beside a giant tortoise. But none of it felt special enough. Not yet. As she stood near the big cat enclosures with her cousin, she leaned in and whispered, "Everyone gets a picture with the jaguar, but no one gets in the shot with one." She had seen the trend before on TikTok: viral reels of tourists edging close to dangerous animals for the perfect post. Some reached past warning signs, standing too close, sometimes getting lucky, and other times not. Illa wasn't reckless. She was strategic. Today, she had chosen a bold yellow top that would pop against the jaguar's dark fur, a striking visual for the kind of content that gets shared, liked, and remembered. She knew the layout of the exhibit and was aware of where the viewing barrier had just ended, and Illa could tell at a glance that the jaguar enclosure had a small patch of dirt right in front of the fence. There were no guardrails, just a waist-high concrete divider and a few warning signs. But Illa didn't see a threat. She saw an opportunity. Just one more post, one more moment, one that, in her mind, would last forever. She was right, but not in the way she expected. It was a little past 2:30 p.m. on March 9, 2018, and the sun was blazing over Litchfield Park, Arizona, casting sharp shadows across the concrete walkways of Wildlife World Zoo. The air was filled with the smell of popcorn and sunscreen as families strolled between the shaded exhibits, laughing, pointing, and snapping photos. Among them was Illa James, her phone in one hand and a cold drink in the other, trailing just a few feet behind her cousin. Security cameras captured her every move as she rounded the corner near the big cat section. The Jaguar exhibit loomed ahead, a large open-air structure bordered by chain-link fencing and a thin concrete moat. Inside, a sleek female jaguar named Bella lay draped across a rock formation, her amber eyes quietly observing the crowd. Illa paused for a moment, then stepped closer to the edge of the barrier. The zoo signs were clear. Do not cross, wildlife is dangerous, stay behind the fence. But between two low shrubs was a narrow, unguarded section, a few feet of concrete, a small incline of dirt, and the outer fence of the enclosure. It wasn't meant to be crossed, it was a safety buffer zone. But to Illa, it looked like an invitation. Her cousin called after her, but Illa had already stepped over the low concrete barrier, one foot planted in the off-limits zone, then the other. She raised her phone, flipped the camera, and moved in closer, now just a few feet from the cage. The jaguar stirred, and murmurs rippled through the crowd as people began to realize what they were witnessing. A few lifted their phones to record. Illa crouched down, adjusted her angle, and tilted her head for the perfect frame. The jaguar stood there, tail flicking, ears forward, silent as it approached the inner edge of the fence. Illa smiled, but what was meant to be a bold moment quickly turned into a fight for survival. She crouched just outside the jaguar's enclosure, angling her phone slightly upward to capture both her confident smile and the striking black and gold blur of the animal. The camera lens caught her focus, completely unaware of the danger lurking just beyond the mesh. Bella, the jaguar, had risen to her feet and was now pacing slowly from left to right, her gaze locked on Illa. In that instant, time seemed to freeze. Illa glanced down at her screen, adjusted her pose, and then, without warning, Bella lunged. A blur of muscle and fur slammed into the inner wall of the enclosure, and one massive paw shot through the mesh, 5 curved claws sinking deep into Illa's arm. The force yanked her forward, knocking her off balance and slamming her shoulder hard against the fence. Her scream echoed across the exhibit as the jaguar clung to her, claws slicing through her skin like it was nothing. The metal fence rattled with their struggle, and blood sprayed onto the dirt as Illa fought to pull away, but Bella's grip only tightened. The jaguar twisted, jaws opening wide, teeth flashing just inches from the barrier. Illa's cousin screamed for help, and a group of bystanders rushed toward the scene, horrified and unsure of what they were witnessing. It grabbed her arm and wouldn't let go, one witness later recounted to reporters. She was screaming and hitting the fence. I honestly thought she was going to die right there. Another man, later identified as Adam Reinhardt, dropped his phone and sprinted toward the enclosure without a second thought. He grabbed a water bottle and hurled it directly at the jaguar's face. It hit the fence with a loud thud, startling Bella and causing her to loosen her grip just enough for Illa to collapse backward into the dirt. Her arm was a mess, deep gashes running from her elbow to her wrist, and she clutched it with her other hand, sobbing in pain, her body trembling as blood soaked through her shirt. People surrounded her, calling 911 and kneeling beside her, desperate to help. In a frantic attempt to stop the bleeding, staff and paramedics rushed to the scene, using jackets and towels to apply pressure. Within minutes, they arrived, while zoo workers worked to clear the crowd and escort visitors away. But the damage was already done. The moment had passed, leaving Illa broken, bloodied, and in shock, all for a photo that never even made it online. The wailing of sirens pierced the air just moments after the attack at 2:39 p.m. First responders stormed into the jaguar exhibit area, pushing past stunned guests. There lay Layla James on the ground, in shock, her left arm drenched in blood, shredded from elbow to wrist. Zoo staff had wrapped it with towels to try to slow the bleeding, but the wounds were deep, exposing torn muscle beneath her skin. Paramedics carefully loaded her onto a stretcher, her cousin trailing closely behind, crying and shaking, repeating over and over that she never thought it would get this bad. Illa was rushed to Abrazo West Campus Hospital in Goodyear, just 10 miles away. She drifted in and out of consciousness, clutching her arm and whispering that she couldn't feel her fingers. Doctors worked to stabilize her. Thankfully, there were no broken bones, but the lacerations were severe, with deep tissue damage. The tendons narrowly escaped being severed, but the doctors warned her that the scars would be permanent. Illa would keep her arm, but it would never look the same. As news of the incident spread later that day, public reaction was swift and divided. Within hours, the Wildlife World Zoo was trending online. Reporters gathered at the gates, and headlines labeled it a vicious jaguar attack. However, zoo officials were quick to clarify the situation. The jaguar did nothing wrong, a spokesperson stated during a press briefing. The guest crossed a clear boundary, one that exists for her safety and for the animals. This was not the fault of the animal. Behind the scenes, zookeepers were visibly frustrated. One keeper, who wished to remain anonymous, told a local journalist, "We put up signs, we set up barriers, and still, people ignore them. Every time someone crosses the line, it puts all of us and the animals in danger." The zoo confirmed that Bella, the female jaguar involved in the incident, won't be put down. She's still in her enclosure, calm and alert, completely unaware that the world outside is now viewing her through a different lens. As for Illa James, her name has become part of a cautionary tale. A split-second decision led to a violent encounter, a public scandal, and a painful recovery, both physically and emotionally. By nightfall on March 9th, the story had gone viral, with news outlets across the country running headlines like "Jaguar attacks zoo visitor," "Woman mauled at Arizona Wildlife Park." But as more details emerged, revealing that Layla James had climbed over the zoo's barrier to snap a selfie, the internet did what it does best. It divided. On one side, outrage erupted from animal lovers and zoo professionals alike. Commenters flooded social media with anger and disbelief, with one post reading, "She crossed the fence. What did she expect?" shared over 12,000 times in just a few hours. Others were less sympathetic, arguing that people like her are the reason animals get euthanized and that she was lucky to be alive. However, not everyone was pointing fingers at Illa. A second wave of criticism emerged, this time aimed at the zoo itself. Critics claimed the exhibit's design was flawed, the fencing too basic, and the signage insufficient. One tweet captured the sentiment, "It's not a barrier, it's an invitation." A Change.org petition briefly circulated, calling for Wildlife World Zoo to redesign its enclosures and enforce stricter boundaries. Some even questioned whether this incident should serve as a wake-up call for all zoos. Should facilities that allow the public to view dangerous predators do more to protect both the animals and the visitors, even from themselves? The zoo responded quickly and decisively. Mickey Olson, the director of Wildlife World Zoo, held a press conference outside the park gates. He remained calm, but his words were firm. "Let me be very clear. The jaguar will not be euthanized. The animal is safe. The woman crossed the barrier. This incident was not the fault of the jaguar." Animal behaviorists weighed in, including Dr. Helen Merrick, a carnivore expert. A specialist with over 20 years of experience didn't hold back during her televised interview, stating that big cats, like jaguars, are incredibly powerful, and even a brief encounter can be dangerous. "This wasn't aggression, it was instinct," she explained. "A human stepped into a predator's territory, and the animal reacted as it should." Inside the zoo, Bella the jaguar was temporarily moved to a secure off-exhibit holding area, while staff checked the fencing and reviewed their protocols. However, there was no indication that she would face any repercussions. No isolation, no sedation, and certainly no death sentence. In the eyes of the experts, Bella hadn't attacked. She had simply defended her space, and Layla James had gotten too close. 3 days after the incident on March 12, 2018, Illa James spoke from her hospital bed at Abrazo West Campus. Her left arm was wrapped in thick gauze from elbow to wrist, with stitches holding together the torn skin beneath. Her voice was soft and shaky, and the confidence she once wore like armor was nowhere to be found. "I made a terrible mistake," she said, her eyes fixed on the wall behind the reporter's camera. "I didn't think it would get that bad." Her confession was raw and honest. She admitted to stepping over the zoo's safety barrier to get a closer look at the jaguar enclosure. Having seen others take close-up photos, she thought she could do the same. "It wasn't smart," she added. "It was selfish. I crossed a line that wasn't mine to cross." Illa paused, struggling to maintain her composure. Her cousin sat nearby, scrolling through the flood of messages that had filled her phone. Some supportive, others brutally harsh. The online backlash had been intense, but Illa wasn't there to defend herself. She was there to take responsibility for her actions. "I don't blame the animal," she said, her eyes starting to well up. "Bella was just doing what a jaguar does. I disrespected that space, and I got hurt. She didn't do anything wrong." After a moment of silence, she reached for her phone with her uninjured hand, unlocked it, and pulled up an image. It was from just a week before, showing her in the same yellow top, with the same wide smile. Imagine Layla, standing on the edge of a stunning red rock cliff in Sedona, her smile bright and carefree, accompanied by a couple of emojis, a paw print and a camera. Her social media was like a digital diary filled with adventures and a fearless spirit. Zoo visits, wildlife selfies, mountain ledges, and thrilling amusement park rides, all perfectly polished and captioned to impress. But now, those same images tell a different story. They weren't just bold, they were reckless. "It's not worth it," she whispered. "No post, no picture. None of it is worth what I'm going through right now." The doctor had told her she was lucky. No major arteries were severed, no bones shattered. But the trauma, both physical and emotional, ran deep. She would carry those scars for the rest of her life, and while the pain might fade over time, the memories would linger. For Illa James, the selfie that was meant to make her famous almost cost her everything, and now all she wanted was for others to learn from her irreversible mistake. Escape with his life. Just a year earlier, in July 2016, tragedy struck at the battling wildlife world in China. A woman, ignoring warnings, exited her vehicle in the tiger safari area. Surveillance cameras captured the horrifying moment she was dragged away by a Siberian tiger while trying to switch seats with her husband. Her mother, who rushed to save her, was mauled to death. What began as a family day trip turned into an irreversible tragedy due to a single moment of poor judgment. These Are Just Layla's story isn't unique. It's part of a troubling trend where the quest for the perfect photo often trumps common sense, safety, and sometimes even survival. Back in May 2017, in South Africa's Gordon province, a man named Mike Hodges was bitten by a lion at the Markelly Predator Center. He had raised that lion from a cub, convinced they shared a special bond. But when he stepped into the enclosure for a selfie with the fully grown predator, the lion turned on him. Hodges was fortunate to see two examples among many, from people attempting to pet bison in Yellowstone to thrill-seekers posing on cliff edges next to bears. The trend is clear. What some call adventure, others see as danger. Selfies have become so common that they're practically everywhere. For years, experts have warned us about the potential fallout from the clash between wildlife and social media. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are overflowing with videos of people ignoring safety barriers, disregarding signs, and venturing into restricted areas, all in the name of going viral. Dr. Aisha Connolly, a human-wildlife interaction specialist at the University of Colorado, put it bluntly during a safety summit in 2019. People are starting to view wild animals not as unpredictable beings, but as mere props for their photos. This illusion of control can lead to serious injuries or even fatalities. Take the case of Layla James, for instance. While she survived, it was a close call. Just a few inches or a moment's hesitation could have meant Bella the jaguar would have taken more than just her arm. It's that thin line between daring and deadly that so many people overlook when they cross those barriers. As Layla recovered in a Phoenix hospital, the spotlight shifted to Bella, the female jaguar at Wildlife World Zoo. The big question buzzing online and echoed in headlines was, what would happen to her? Bella, a 5-year-old cat born in captivity, was known to the zoo staff as observant, calm, and cautious. She had never shown aggression towards handlers or visitors. While she wasn't violent, she was territorial, and when a human intruded into her space, she reacted in the only way a wild predator knows, by defending her territory. Zoo director Mickey Olson quickly addressed the situation in a public statement, just hours after the incident, asserting, "The jaguar did nothing wrong and will not be euthanized. She is a wild animal, and someone crossed a barrier they should not have crossed." This message struck a chord with animal welfare organizations worldwide, and the support for Bella came pouring in. Experts and conservationists rallied behind the zoo's decision, stressing that putting the jaguar down would be an unjust punishment. When Dr. Elaine Ben, a behaviorist specializing in large carnivores, was asked about Bella's reaction, she explained that it was instinctual. Bella saw Illa as an intruder and didn't attack out of malice. She was simply defending her territory. That's just a jaguar being a jaguar. After the incident, Bella was temporarily moved to a holding area away from public view while the staff evaluated the security of her enclosure. This was a precautionary measure, not a punishment. In the days that followed, zoo officials meticulously inspected every part of the jaguar exhibit. Wildlife World Zoo took steps to enhance safety by upgrading their signage and reinforcing access points around the big cat enclosures. They added yellow striped warning lines near the low barriers and installed additional multilingual signs to clearly warn guests. Danger! Do not cross! Wild animals may kill! Thankfully, Bella remained unharmed, unrestrained, and, most importantly, alive. She continued to live behind the fence she had never crossed because she never needed to. It wasn't Bella who crossed a boundary. It was a visitor who ignored one. For many observers, that detail shifted the entire narrative. In the end, Layla James survived, but it came at a price. The deep, jagged scars on her forearm are a permanent reminder of a moment that lasted mere seconds, yet changed everything. The surgeries, the physical therapy, and the quiet humiliation of having the world scrutinize her mistake. Those things don't fade quickly. Her Instagram hasn't seen an update since the attack. The vibrant images of her former life remain frozen in time, capturing the confident, untouchable woman she once was. Now, Ila shares her story in classrooms, safety seminars, and digital awareness campaigns, using her experience not for entertainment, but as a cautionary tale. "No picture is worth your life," she says in a recorded clip that's now circulated by zoo safety organizations. "If you have to break a rule to get the shot, it's not a shot you should be taking." Her voice is calm and measured, but the weight of regret is unmistakable. Her cousin, Melissa Rhodes, was standing just feet away when it all happened. In a rare interview, Melissa opened up about the terrifying moment when the jaguar struck. "I still have dreams about it," she said, her voice trembling as she recalled her screams and the blood. "I thought I was watching her die. We're just lucky she didn't." As she spoke, tears welled up in her eyes, and she added, "But someone else might not be so lucky next time." That realization, more than anything, highlights the tragedy beneath the survival story. This warning, this moment of horror, should have never been necessary. It took one woman nearly losing her life for the world to pause and reconsider what it's willing to risk for a moment of attention. In the wild, real wild, there are no filters, no retakes, just consequences. The sun sets low over Litchfield Park, casting long shadows across the quiet paths of Wildlife World Zoo. The crowd has dispersed, and the laughter has faded into silence. Somewhere in the distance, a jaguar paces behind the safety of steel fencing, unaware of the headlines, the debates, or the lives she's changed. The wild isn't just a backdrop. It's not a prop for likes or a playground for thrill seekers. It's unpredictable, and sometimes a single moment of ego can lead to a lifetime of regret. Layla James survived, but others haven't been so fortunate. Unless we learn from moments like this, someone else will pay the price. The signs are there, the barriers are built, but they only work if we choose to respect them. Always respect wildlife. Never cross barriers. One photo is never worth your life. Subscribe now for more true animal attack stories that will make you think twice. If you believe animals should never be punished for human mistakes, like this video and comment below. Do you think the jaguar should have been put down? Thanks for watching.